Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, good day to you, depending where you are in the world. It is a nighttime devotion. The devotional is called Conflict and Courage. The title today, Unsanctified Skill. 2 Chronicles 4 verse 11, and Huram finished the work that he was to make for King Solomon for the house of God. Chosen men were specially endowed by God with skill and wisdom for the construction of the wilderness tabernacle. The descendants of these men inherited to a large degree the skill conferred upon their forefathers. For a time, these men remained humble and unselfish, but gradually, almost imperceptibly, they lost their hold upon God and His truth. They began to ask for higher wages because of their superior skill. In some instances, their request was granted, but more often, those asking higher wages found employment in the surrounding nations. It was to these apostates that Solomon looked for a master workman to superintend the construction of the temple on Mount Moriah. This master workman, Huram, was a descendant on his mother's side of Aholiab, to whom hundreds of years before God had given special wisdom for the construction of the tabernacle. Thus, at the head of Solomon's company of workmen, there was placed an unsanctified man who demanded large wages because of his unusual skill. The baleful influences set in operation by the employment of this man of a grasping spirit permeated all branches of the Lord's service and extended throughout Solomon's kingdom. Extravagance and corruption were to be seen in every hand. The poor were oppressed by the rich. The spirit of self-sacrifice in God's service was well nigh lost. Herein lies a most important lesson for God's people today. A lesson that many are slow to learn. Those who claim to be followers of the master worker and who engage in his service as co-laborers with God are to bring into their work the exactitude and the skill, the tact and wisdom that the God of perfection required in the building of the earthly tabernacle. And now, as in that time and as in the days of Christ's earthly ministry, devotion to God and a spirit of sacrifice should be regarded as the first requisites of acceptable service. Unsanctified skill. So this guy Huram, who was of the descendant of the original guys God skilled to build the tabernacle. He was a descendant. He shared the same skill God granted him. God bestowed upon him. But as is the greed of man, because he was so skillful, he started off as a child of God. But as his skill grew, and he grew more skillful and more professional and more, whatever you want to call it, his pride, as I've always said, it's about pride. You should not charge to do God's work. This guy was doing work for God, for Solomon, but it was for the house of God. And he was charging stupid rates. You know what, it does get on my nerves, but it reminds me of all our medical missionaries. These people who have trained in the art of natural herbal remedies and to heal people without the use of drugs, just using plants and roots and stuff like oils, all natural. Yes, some of it can be expensive because you can't just get it from the ground. And yes, they would have to buy it, and yes, you would compensate them for that. And if some of them do it for a living, they have to live as well. But I know I've experienced natural herbal remedy people. They will charge anything from £100 to £250 just for a consultation, which, in the best of times, maybe an hour. Maybe an hour. Yes, I know you've done all the learning. Yes, I know you've done all the practicing, and you have that skill. Those that have it, there's many that don't have it. But even so, why? I mean, it's not just that. You get, people decorating churches, they're charging. People fixing things in churches, they're charging. It's wrong. It's wrong. And these guys charging wages for their skills to build God's tabernacle. I don't know. What do you think?